My beloved, do you think it's an accident that you're hearing my voice right now? No. Heaven planned this moment long before you took your first breath. Here on Holy Voices, we share the whispers of eternity, the messages that change hearts and awaken destinies. If your soul is ready, stay with me, because what you're about to hear might be the very word your spirit has been waiting for. Don't just watch, join. Subscribe, press like, and write in the comments what Holy Voices has spoken to your heart. Over you, there was a yelling match. Your honor was being protected from this liar by someone. You will be deeply shaken by what was said, because the conflict has been simmering in the shadows around your name while you've been subtly becoming your best self. By removing energetic ties and entering into your divine energy with unquestionable grace and strength, you have been doing the inner work. By being the steady, safe, and prosperous person you were always destined to be, you have been taking care of both yourself and other people. Even strangers now perceive a magnetic quality in you because of the drastic change in your energy. However, someone from your past has been furiously observing your change. This person believed that your hardships would never end. This individual created a whole story about your limits and persuaded everybody who would listen that you would never amount to anything substantial while you were recovering, learning, and figuring things out. By transforming your suffering into unadulterated strength, you have totally demolished those forecasts. It wasn't a quiet conversation that ended up shattering this toxic person's world. It was a full-blown emotional outburst in which the truth about you that had been repressed poured forth like a dam under stress. The witness questioned more than one or two of your stories. Every falsehood made about your personality was methodically disproved by facts, proof, and heartbreaking insights into the toxic person's actual character. This toxic individual had been methodically altering the course of events between you and them. When someone actually acted aggressively toward you, they had assumed the victim position. They continued to act erratically and manipulatively toward you while making accusations about your alleged instability. Stories about your violent and spiteful personality were being circulated, and the accuser was actually planning campaigns to destroy your name and exact retribution. Something that will make your stomach turn was disclosed by the witness. Authorities had received false reports about you. People in your professional networks were spreading false information about you. You were being compulsively stalked online. This wasn't passive animosity for you. Since it was intolerable for them to see you flourish without them, this was deliberate malice meant to ruin your life. Every effort to hurt you ended spectacularly. There was no proof to back up the bogus reports about you, so they didn't stick. Your character speaks louder than words, therefore the professional lies about you were exposed. Because the person living with this toxic person couldn't conceal their obsession with you, the cyberstalking of you was exposed. Horrified by what he saw, the witness had been recording this behavior toward you. It became intolerable to live with someone who was more interested in ruining you than in fostering the present bond. A breaking point was reached when someone chose anger at you over your presence, dreams of retaliation over reality, and obsession with you over the love that was being delivered directly in front of them. The witness finally realized that the accusations made against you were more than falsehoods. These were admissions. In reality, every charge made against you was a description of the accuser's own actions. Every critique of you was a reflection of flaws in your own personality. All of the accusations regarding your alleged instability were really proof of their own mental illness. Something much more awful about you was exposed during the explosive confrontation. By persuading this witness that you were a threat to the relationship, this toxic person had been attempting to persuade your present partner against you. This spouse had been taught lies about your personality, your intentions, and your alleged continuous influence in their lives. The current partner and you, who had fully moved on and was succeeding without them, were falsely made to feel competitive by manipulation techniques. The witness eventually recognized that you were being used as a weapon against an innocent person who was just trying to live your best life. It fueled the ensuing intense encounter to realize that you were being used as a tool in someone's revenge fantasy against you. More startling facts about you surfaced as the dispute over you heated up, illustrating how seriously disturbed this toxic person's treatment of you had become. Finding proof of attempts to undermine your new chances was disclosed by the witness. Lies intended to harm your reputation and relationships had been discovered in messages sent to your place of employment, business associates, or new romantic interests. By methodically ruining everything positive that happened to you after that, this toxic person had been acting as though they could somehow compel you back into their life. There was a sense that if you were to fail terribly enough in life, you would return broken and remorseful, pleading for their approval and forgiveness. Their behavior toward you had been getting more desperate and vengeful as a result of your continuous success and evident happiness, which had been shattering this dream about you piece by piece. The witness also found that all of the energy was being discreetly directed toward fretting over your life, while false information had been shared regarding your finances, work, and mental health. While days were spent hatching plans against you rather than achieving personal accomplishment, the witness's support had been maintained through the manipulation of sympathy. It dawned on you that someone who had moved on from you entirely was using your time to pay their lifestyle while they were plotting against you. According to the witness, every curse that was hurled at you, every wish that was expressed for your destiny, and every malicious intent that was aimed at you seemed to be returning to them with greater vigor. Attempts to ruin your life had been directly correlated with the breakdown of this poisonous person's own. Their life was falling apart as yours was getting better, with relationships dissolving, reputations being ruined, mental health declining, and financial circumstances growing dire, all while they were fixated on your success. After observing this karmic devastation for some time, the witness ultimately realized that you were seeing in real time how the cosmos was reacting to persistent malevolent intent toward you. It wasn't merely allowing lies to keep quiet about what was happening to you. You were the target of spiritual warfare and complicity. Someone who has eschewed retaliation and resentment in favor of recovery and development. When the witness said that this toxic individual was so intensely fixated on you that it was impossible to fully commit to any existing relationship, the argument became heated. It was noted that you were talked about more than your own aspirations, ambitions, or plans for the future. Since resentment at you was consuming all of the emotional energy, it was highlighted how this obsession with you had made availability for true love and partnership impossible. The fact that privacy wasn't upheld makes this outburst about you even more important. Others, including neighbors, friends, family, and probably even children, witnessed the yelling struggle for your honor. They didn't need to hear such damaging disclosures about what had been done to you. It wasn't merely a private discussion when the witness defended your character. The toxic person's carefully crafted image as the victim in your story was destroyed by this public vindication of you. People who had been hearing grievances about you for months heard an entirely different account of what had happened to you. It was upsetting to find out that they had been manipulated to feel sorry for someone who was actually the one who had attacked you. Learning that you were the target of a weapon of pity. For these witnesses, everything was altered by an innocent individual who was merely attempting to recover and improve their lives. The witness did more than simply support you. Everyone within hearing distance received education of the toxic person's pattern of behavior toward you. How this individual continuously blamed you for difficulties manufactured by themselves. How information about your relationship was misrepresented in order to keep you as a victim. And it became clear how everybody who attempted to speak well of you was punished. The social repercussions for you started to spread right away. The stories that had been circulated about you began to be questioned by mutual friends. Family members started to piece together your relationship and earlier instances in which the victim role had been used. Your co-workers recalled events that, in this new setting, made perfect sense. When others realized that you had been using deceit and manipulation to turn them against you, the toxic person's entire network of social support started to fall apart. You were totally shielded from the turmoil while the toxic person's reputation was being destroyed by this social earthquake. You had continued to concentrate on developing yourself, creating your new reality, and drawing chances and people who shared your values into your life. The cosmos had been preparing your vindication while also shielding you from this drama. Another important factor in your fate was the witness's public defense of your character. Before you fully enter the next stage of your trip, you need to establish the truth about your integrity. The leadership positions, creative endeavors, and career prospects that are now coming your way demand credibility and public trust. By making sure that untrue stories about your personality couldn't get in the way of your divine tasks, the cosmos cleared your path. However, let's examine more closely what the witness actually said about you during the heated exchange. Because you'll get chills from what was stated about you. There was more going on than just defense of you. Every falsehood that was spread about you was methodically and expertly exposed. Something that struck right to the heart opened the discussion about you. You talk more about this individual than you do about us. Hating your ex takes up more of your energy than loving the person in front of you. The witness didn't accept the toxic person's attempts to divert, diminish, or return the topic to the victim narrative about you. Proverbs 11 verse 25 says, "The generous will prosper." Prosperity begins with your super thanks today. It was a cruel continuation about you. With utter loathing in your eyes, I've been observing you go through your social media accounts. I have heard you conjure up intricate imaginations about your failure. I've seen you rejoice when you were afraid of a negative outcome. It's not typical to act that way toward an ex-obsession with you is what that is. The witness struck a blow regarding you that destroyed the whole foundation when the toxic person tried to defend their actions by saying you had caused them such great pain. No, you're not telling the truth about your actions. I have read the messages regarding you. Depending on who is listening, I've heard your version of what happened with you change. I've seen you alter history to your advantage in order to appear innocent. All of the stories you have given me about yourself have been projections of your own behavior, which are confessions. The witness then disclosed information about you that will chill you to the bone. Because the toxic person's obsession with you had gotten so overwhelming and upsetting, it had been secretly documented. There were screenshots of attempts to keep tabs on your life, attempts to get in touch with your place of employment, and evidence of fraudulent reports made to the authorities about you. The purpose of the lawsuit was to shield the witness from someone whose actions toward you had grown progressively deranged, not to use against the toxic individual. You flatly claimed that you were the source of fraudulent police reports regarding your ex. You attempted to use lies to get into trouble at work. For months, you have been the target of cyberstalking. With constantly shifting tales, you have been attempting to turn your mutual friends against you. Losing you isn't heartbreaking. You are being harassed by this. You are being stalked by this. This is illegal action directed at you. Even the witness who had been cohabitating with the toxic person was astounded by the depths of their hatred when they were presented with proof of these acts toward you. Anger erupted at having the behavior toward you revealed, rather than any self-reflection or remorse for what had been done to you. The witness was threatened for betraying them by standing up for you. There were accusations that you had somehow brainwashed the witness. When levels of delusion and paranoia concerning you were exposed, it became evident that there had been a total breakdown in reality. The witness did more than simply reveal false information about you during this exchange. A thorough psychological profile of a person who is essentially incapable of forming good relationships was made public. Observed patterns revealed a picture of ingrained character disorders that extended well beyond sentiments of anger or envy. The witness proclaimed, "You've never taken responsibility for anything. You have never, ever in the time I've known you, truly apologized for hurting someone else. You don't feel regret. Instead, you feel angry at being caught. Every friendship that ended was because someone didn't understand you. Every relationship that ended was the other person's fault. Every job lost was due to unfair treatment." The witness disclosed that because the toxic person's actions had caused them to doubt reality, research into psychological manipulation techniques had been conducted. It was found that the toxic person's actions aligned with standard patterns of narcissistic abuse, pathological lying, and antisocial behavior. "You don't miss this person." The witness went on, "You never loved them." It dawned on them that the underlying situation was dealing with someone who lacked the fundamental empathy and self-awareness required for true human connection. Losing them doesn't break your heart. You're furious that someone got away from you. The fact that success is occurring without you infuriates you. You can't accept that your assumptions about this person's potential were incorrect. It has nothing to do with love. It has to do with ownership. The fact that these remarks were not ignored only strengthens the witness's defense of you. After hearing these discoveries, others who had been listening to grievances about you for months started to make connections that had previously been invisible. Members of the family began recalling past relationships in which the victim role had been used. Stories that had never fully made sense started to be questioned by friends. Colleagues recounted events that abruptly acquired new significance. A wider awareness of poisonous patterns was sparked by the witness's forceful defense of your reputation. Those who had been expressing compassion and support came to the realization that they had been coerced into choosing a side in a dispute without providing them with correct facts. It became clear that carefully crafted lies were intended to portray you as unstable, spiteful, or dangerous. Many of these folks developed sincere admiration for your handling of the matter when they realized how misrepresentation about your character had happened. They realized that even though they had been assaulted and slandered on a regular basis, there had never been any response. There had been no effort to incite opposition to the toxic individual. You were never the target of the same kind of character assassination campaign that had been launched against you. Your ability to remain composed in the face of criticism, your refusal to seek retribution, and your decision to put more effort into improving your own life than ruining someone else's started to shine brightly, drawing admiration and support. Your actions and those of the poisonous individual become so different from one another that the distinction was obvious to anyone with even the most basic moral sense. The community was also informed by the witness's defensive perspective that they had been shielded from the toxic person's attempts to include others in the dispute. It may have been easy to fight back by exposing manipulations and lies, but the decision was made to uphold integrity and allow the truth to come to light in God's time. Everyone who found out about the entire extent of what had been experienced in quiet was amazed by your self-control and spiritual development. However, during the violent altercation, the witness disclosed something much more unsettling. There had been indications that you were the target of what can only be called spiritual warfare. Engaging in activities intended to hurt you energetically had been going beyond simply disseminating incorrect information and fabricating reports. The witness recounted discovering proof that consultations with practitioners of destructive spiritual rites had taken place, looking for methods to obstruct your possibilities and curse your success. They have found attempts to cast binding spells that were intended to keep you from continuing with your life. They had been focusing strong negative energy on you every day, creating shrines of resentment with your pictures and personal belongings. The witness said indignantly, "You've been attempting to spiritually assault someone who has been nothing but kind to you. You've been trying to curse this person's happiness and attach them to your suffering by sending them negative energy. However, examine your own life. Take a look at how everything you've attempted to do to them has compounded back to you. You've been using your own hatred to ruin yourself." The witness realized that the law of spiritual reciprocity was being observed in action as they watched the toxic person's life fall apart in direct correlation with attempts to harm them spiritually. Their mental state had deteriorated to the point where it was nearly impossible to function on a daily basis, their health had been deteriorating, their relationships were failing, and their financial situation had become desperate. There was supernatural protection surrounding you throughout the entire ordeal, according to the witness, who described feeling a strong spiritual shield that appeared to deflect all the negative energy being directed your way. Every curse that was attempted to be sent your way was returning with compound interest. It was observed that every attempt to harm you seemed to strengthen you instead, and that every lie about you somehow led to a greater revelation of your character. It was as if someone were fighting against someone who was shielded by forces they couldn't comprehend. "Every attack makes their target stronger," the witness exclaimed. "More truth comes out of every lie. Every misfortune turns into a gift." In addition to damage not happening, unintentional service to their targets is occurring. You will be astounded by the witness's legal bombshells during the intense exchange. Since the toxic person's actions had crossed so many legal lines that criminal charges were becoming imminent, it was discovered that confidential consultations with lawyers had been taking place. Prosecutors would be interested in the pattern of harassment that was established by the bogus police complaints, cyberstalking, defamation campaigns, and attempts to sabotage your job. It was said frankly, there have been multiple felonies committed. It is illegal to file fake police reports. It is illegal to cyberstalk someone. A civil infraction that carries a high potential for financial penalties is defamation. Torturous interference is when someone's job is disrupted by lying. There is a case against you that could lead to jail time and significant financial liability. After that, the witness made a chilling revelation. Law enforcement has taken action to look into the toxic person's history of making false reports. Authorities had realized that this person was wasting police resources on personal grudges, and a case that may have major legal repercussions was being developed. The witness had cooperated with this investigation by providing proof of dishonest reporting practices and compulsive behavior. Attempts to legally injure you had been so blatantly malevolent and untrue that they had actually enhanced your position. There was a documented pattern of the toxic person's dishonesty because every false report had been carefully examined and rejected. The harvest belongs to the sower. Plant your $50 seed into holy voices and prepare for your season of breakthrough. Every effort to harm your reputation had failed because it had brought attention to your moral qualities rather than your vengeful actions. The witness clarified that if legal action was decided to be taken, lawyers had told them you would have a strong case for a restraining order, harassment charges, and defamation damages. All the evidence required to demonstrate malevolent intent and establish the harassing pattern had been provided by the toxic person's own actions. You now have strong legal tools to defend yourself and pursue justice after attempts to legally destroy you. Another reason for the toxic person's compulsive behavior toward you was their dire financial circumstances, which were made clear by the witness's defense of your honor. It was discovered that false information had been provided regarding their income, work status, and capacity to sustain themselves or help with shared costs. You were ignoring your personal obligations and prospects while spending hours every day worrying about your life. The witness disclosed that the poisonous individual had received financial assistance. The unpleasant discovery that personal funds had been used to finance someone's campaign of harassment against an innocent person who was merely attempting to live their life and follow their aspirations was described, while time was spent conspiring against you rather than working toward personal accomplishment. Your financial status had been significantly increasing while the toxic person's compulsive behavior was ruining your personal financial stability. The witness had been watching your accomplishment from afar and could see how drastically different the poisonous person's downward spiral was from your rising trajectory. It dawned on you that efforts to undermine your success had somehow brought even more wealth into your life. The witness's forceful defense of you also exposed the ways in which the toxic person's actions had been impacting relationships with longtime friends and relatives. It was revealed how social occasions and family get-togethers had been exploited to disseminate false information about you, transforming every celebration into an uncomfortable character assassination session. According to the witness, the toxic person's persistent negativity and fixation with you had gotten intolerable, so family members had been coming up with excuses to avoid spending time with them. Friends had started pulling away because they were tired of being drawn into one-sided fights. The toxic person's incapacity to move on had been methodically ruining connections with others who genuinely wanted to help them, so participation wasn't wanted. The most devastating discovery, however, was that some of the toxic individual's relatives had genuinely hoped you would be successful and happy even though they had never met you. People had been rooting for you because they understood that your success and independence were the toxic person's greatest chance to let go and move on. Instead of being viewed as a threat to be eradicated, your success was viewed as a possible remedy for their loved one's illness. The witness's final strike, which totally destroyed the toxic person's victim narrative, was the pinnacle of this confrontation. It was discovered that there was evidence. Documented instances, recordings, and messages that demonstrated the toxic individual was the manipulator, the liar, and the aggressor in your first relationship. There was evidence that everything that had been alleged against you was not only untrue, but also described the accuser's abusive behavior. This proof had been discreetly gathered by the witness since something regarding the stories told by the toxic individual had never felt correct. Before it became clear that the toxic person was a compulsive liar who was skilled at rewriting history to preserve victim status, testing facts, seeking clarification, and cross-referencing material had been taking place. At this pivotal point, the witness did more than simply reveal the lies. The psychological characteristics of a person unable to accept accountability for their own actions were revealed. It was described how the toxic individual attributes every broken bridge, every lost job, and every failed relationship to outside events or alleged abuse by others. A person was portrayed as having never truly expressed regret for hurtful deeds, never offered an apology, and never exhibited signs of progress or transformation. Even the witness who had been living with the poisonous person was startled by how they responded when they were exposed, revealing their true nature. Threats were made against the witness for expressing the truth, and instead of displaying any regret, guilt, or readiness to own up to actions, they doubled down on lies and were even more vengeful. In order to avoid being exposed personally, wild charges were made. Everyone in attendance was frightened by the levels of anger and malice that were exposed. This response was the last indication that the witness's character statements were true. You had been dealing with someone who was fundamentally incapable of having healthy relationships or an honest self-evaluation, as seen by their inability to manage accountability, their quick turn to threats and intimidation, and their total lack of self-reflection or remorse. Later, the witness told others that it was both terrifying and freeing to see the toxic person's mask come off during this interaction. Finally, you realized why you had to break off all communication and distance yourself from this person's influence. The degree of psychological disorder and emotional instability you had been shielding yourself from was observed firsthand. Following this shocking discovery, the toxic person's repercussions started to materialize with prompt and indisputable justice. The present partnership dissolved right away. The witness was no longer able to maintain a relationship with someone whose actions generated such deep contempt. Authorities were looking into lies, and making false claims may have legal repercussions. As news of patterns of deceit and manipulation spread, reputation in the community was irreparably harmed. Your life was growing with possibilities and benefits that appeared almost miraculous in their timing and abundance, while the poisonous person's world was crumbling under the weight of their own lies. Until your reputation was officially validated and your energy field was totally free of harmful influences, the universe had been keeping these gifts. The witness who stood up for you wasn't merely pursuing the truth at the time. Unaware service was taking place as a divine timing agent, paving the way for your upcoming phase of development and service. Speaking up with bravery has taken away the final barrier keeping you from realizing your full potential as a chosen one. It was never intended for you to travel this route by yourself. There is more to the inner order of obsidian than meets the eye. It is a haven for the awakened, the exiled, and those who have been abandoned for their truth and gaslighted for their abilities. We get together live on Zoom once a week. Stories of transformation from real individuals with genuine faces. A healer who overcame ritual abuse and discovered their power, a former CFO who accepted their psychic skills, and a seer who liberated themselves from religious oppression. We're joined by dozens of others who have been through exactly what you have. Your spiritual family is this group. I will never abandon you. I will never allow you to experience this revelation by yourself. I will never browse over your pain as if it were mere content. You were not punished by being banished from the normal world. For us in the family that chooses you back, it was a prelude to this. Join the inner order of obsidian. In the description, there is a link. You couldn't have had the employment chances that are currently coming your way while you were energetically involved with someone who was acting with such damaging intent. Jealousy and attempts at sabotage would have prevented the financial gains from entering your life. The clean energy field you developed via healing practice was necessary for the artistic endeavors and spiritual abilities that emerged in your experience. You have completed a significant spiritual initiation when you go from recuperating from poisonous relationships to attracting only supportive, aligned interactions. It was demonstrated that integrity could be upheld even in the face of persistent character attacks. It was shown that one might choose healing over retaliation, trust over fear, and progress over retaliation. The exposure and repercussions of the poisonous person serve as a potent reminder that the universe upholds balance through natural law, even in cases when they were deliberately working against your happiness. Because spiritual protection had been built by a resolve to operating from love rather than fear, attempts to hurt you were mirrored back, intensified. Because truth has a tendency of coming to light when the time is right, lies were exposed. Personal decisions to put vengeance ahead of accountability led to isolation and reputational harm. In addition to being blessed with courage and integrity, the witness who defended you chose justice over peacekeeping and truth above comfort. The same divine energies that had been guarding you during this experience aligned with you. Being prepared to forego one's comfort in order to protect an innocent person gained spiritual merit and created new opportunities in one's own life. We now go back to the beginning of this tale. However, the witness' valiant defense of your honor has changed everything. The argument that broke out over you was about more than just protecting your reputation. They were confronting a level of toxicity that had been using deception, manipulation, and spiritual warfare to corrupt an entire community. There was more than one instance in which the witness who erupted in your defense was telling the truth. The type of nefarious action that ruins the lives of innocent people, families, and communities was being opposed. Healing that went well beyond your particular circumstances was sparked by the intense encounter with the toxic person's lies. Proverbs 11 verse 25 says, "The generous will prosper." Prosperity begins with your super thanks today. You can now proceed with confidence that your character has been supported by documentation, proof, and first-hand accounts from someone who saw the harmful behavior. Your reputation has been restored not only in private discussions but also in public settings where the truth was expressed with conviction and strength. People who realize the difference between genuine progress and harmful manipulation have acknowledged and celebrated the heavenly energy you've been creating that fosters strength, creative power, and spiritual maturity. The universe was sending up defenders who would speak truth on your behalf with more strength than you could have mustered for yourself, while the toxic individual was trying to bring you down. You are now eligible for levels of service and influence that need unwavering integrity and demonstrated character because you successfully navigated this spiritual attack. Your life's chances today require someone who has endured hardship and come out on the other side with their morals untarnished. Someone who, even when gravely provoked, favored growth over retaliation and reconciliation above animosity. The witness who stood up for you is a symbol of the growing number of people who will no longer put up with poisonous behavior by remaining silent. As real people choose truth over comfort and courage above social harmony, there is symbolism of the collective awakening taking place. Good people are no longer prepared to let evil through passive complicity when they are willing to face deception and manipulation. All of this has been setting you up for a future that demands total energetic clarity and unwavering public credibility. The leadership positions, artistic endeavors, and therapeutic prospects that are coming your way require someone who has demonstrated the capacity to remain spiritually centered in the face of constant assault, who prioritizes divine justice over self-retaliation, and whose integrity has been openly confirmed by reliable witnesses. The preoccupation of the toxic individual with ruining you has finally served to emphasize your fortitude, moral character, and unwavering spirit. Efforts to keep you small have only served to highlight the amazing rate of expansion. Your genuine kindness has become more apparent to everyone who is listening because of falsehoods about your character. Divine protection has been triggered by spiritual attacks, and it is currently guiding you toward your greatest potential. Now, selected one, you are assuming your full potential. The eyewitness has spoken. The truth is out. Someone has defended your honor. Your morals have been upheld. You're over the drama. The truth has been revealed. And the voice of your destiny is calling, and it cannot be postponed or denied any longer. This whole series of events was planned by the universe to get you ready for the best possible service. Each assault made you stronger. More truth came out of each untruth. All of the curses turned into blessings. By removing anything that wasn't in line with your highest purpose, every attempt at destruction actually helped your ultimate good. Your secret period of concealment, recovery, and development is over. Your public debut has been made possible by the witness who stood up for your honor, and the world is ready for what you have to offer. Nothing at all can prevent what is about to happen to you. Beloved soul, if this message has spoken to your heart, don't let it end here. Click that like button so the light can spread to more people who need hope. Subscribe to Holy Voices so you never miss the next word heaven has for you. And leave a comment below. I read every one, and I pray over them. Remember, faith grows when we share it, so share this message with someone who needs to hear it today. Until we meet again, may God's peace cover you and His voice guide your every step.